Welcome back to another video where today we're going to be replacing the rear brakes on a 2018 Honda CR-V. So replacing the rear brakes on a Honda CR-V is pretty simple. What we're going to do is we're going to go outside and chock our front wheels so the vehicle can't move. We're going to open up the hood and release the brake pressure by opening up the brake reservoir cap. And then we're going to remove the back wheels. So let's go outside and I'll show you how to do that. So we've got our front wheels chocked, so we're now going to lift the vehicle up and pull off the back tires. So to remove the caliper and the mounting bracket, you need two sockets. The caliper bracket is going to be a 12mm and the pad bracket is an 18. So we're going to start by removing the caliper here. So with the caliper off, we're going to take off the electronic e-brake portion here. So what we've got is a small hex that's going to fit in, and I'm running it on an extension to get above. We're going to take off the two mounting bolts here. So now that we have the back removed off of the caliper here, we're going to push this plunger back in here. So we're going to use a T45 and we're going clockwise here, and we're just going to go until this stops spinning here. So now that we have that step done, the next thing we're going to do is grab the caliper tool here. So this is going to help us push back in the caliper here so we can start to get everything else removed and cleaned up. So we now have the piston here pushed in, but we need to adjust it to a 12/6 position here, and then we can pull off the brake pads and the mounting bracket next. So now that we have the caliper portion here done, we're going to use the 17mm and remove the bracket that's holding our pad on. So Honda and Acura are one of the brands that use a locking screw here that hold the rotor on, but you actually need a special tool here to remove it. This is an impact screwdriver. So if you try to do this by hand with a normal screwdriver here, what ends up happening is you'll end up stripping the screw out of here and you won't be able to get this off. So now that we have the screw out here, we're going to take this rotor off. And what we're going to do next is use our angle grinder, and we're just going to clean up all the mounting surface here where the new rotor goes to. So now that we've cleaned up the hub here, we're going to apply just a little bit of anti-seize. So this will allow us to remove the brakes later if we need to service them without having to fight. So now that we have the anti-seize on here, we're just going to install the new rotor. So one of the benefits for the screw is you don't need to then set up a bolt and a wheel nut here to hold the rotor on. So now we can finish up the brake install. So now that the rotor side is done, what we're going to do is remove the old brake pads. We're going to do the exact same thing and just clean up the mounting surface for all the brackets here. So I always start with just a normal wire brush here just to clean up all the bulk, and then we're going to switch back over to the angle grinder and do the same thing. Just get everything here where the new bracket mounts to clean. So this is about how clean you want to get the bracket here. So we're going to add just a little bit of lube on the brackets here, and we're going to mount these brackets now. So with the bracket installed here, there's two locking tabs that are on the side of the brackets here that'll let you know when you clip into position. So two on the top portion here and two on the outside. So I like to pre-install my pads. So you're gonna have two different pads here that come with your kit. You're gonna have one with a clip here, which is always your rear pad, and none on the front here. So the reason that we readjusted the caliper to the 12 and 6 position is the pads have these little pins that you have to grab onto. So now that we have the pads installed, we're just going to spray down the rotor with some brake clean, and then we're going to remount the bracket. So the very last thing we're going to do just before we actually mount this bracket is we're just going to pop open these sliders, and we're just going to clean off and re-lube them. So you don't need to do that all the time when, like you say, you're servicing the brakes, but when you're changing the brakes with new, you want to get this clean, and then make sure that you take out any air that's inside of the sleeve here. So you don't add a lot of brake lube here on it. You just do a little bit, and you can see that I'm up pretty high here. So I'm just going to pull down, and you could hear a little bit of the air squeeze out there. So that is perfect, just like that. So now that we've got everything set here, we're just going to reinstall the bracket. So now that we're ready to reinstall the caliper, we're going to get the electronic e-brake remounted first so we can get that into the position we need it in. So now that the e-brake is remounted and we've mounted the caliper back onto the bracket, we're just going to attach the two bolts here again. And I'm just going to tighten these down again. You're just going to go hand tight, give it just a little bit more. And we can now move over and start the other side. So we're going to follow the exact same process here. We're going to start with our two 12mm bolts, and then we're going to switch to our two 17s. We're going to recompress the e-brake piston, and then recompress the piston on the caliper, take off the brackets, remove the rotor, remove the locking screw, clean everything, and then get it all reinstalled again. So again, we're going to take the 2 Allen nuts out of here, and then we're going to recompress the e-brake piston. So again, now that we have the motor off here, we're just going to go clockwise and recompress the e-brake. Just going to go again until it stops itself. So now that we have our caliper tool here, we're just going to slowly recompress our piston here. And again, we're going to want to make sure that we stay at the 12 and 6 position. So if we move too far here, what we'll do is just pull it back out.
I was going to, but you wanted to view.
All right, shut up. So we're now going to use the 17 here again and crack both of these bolts off. And we can now pull our rotor off. So we're just going to clean up the surface here again with the wire wheel and the brush, and then we're going to put on the anti-seize and get the new rotor back on. So we got the anti-seize on the hub portion here. We've got our new clips in. We're going to get the pads installed, and then we're going to get this all put back together now.
Definitely doesn't work.
So we've got the rotor back on. We just sprayed it down and cleaned it. We have our pads reinstalled. Again, we're just going to pop out and clean off the old brake loop here and add a little bit more. So we have the bracket back on. The next thing we're going to do is just reattach the electric e-brake, and then we'll get the caliper mounted. So we've got everything now back together on the passenger side too. So we're going to get our wheel put back on, and then we're going to lower the vehicle and take it for a test drive. So now that we've got both sides done, the vehicle's back down, we're just going to torque the rims here. So now that we've got both the wheels back on, they're torqued, we're going to take the vehicle for a quick test drive. The first thing we're going to do though is we're going to pump the brakes again. We want to make sure that the brake pads in the rear recompress against the rotors to make sure that the caliper have pushed their way all the way back out. So we've just done that. We've got a firm pedal again, so we're good to now take the vehicle for a test drive. So we just got back from the road test on our vehicle, and the brakes are working fine. We tested our e-brake as well, and everything is functioning like it should. So this has just been a quick tutorial on how to do rear brakes on a 2018 Honda CR-V. If you have any questions, leave me a comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.